Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Walk Japan, Talk Japan session. I am Giorgio. I am the tour operations manager of Walk Japan. I also work as a tour leader when we are able to run tours, hopefully soon. And today it's my pleasure to be the master of ceremony for our talk, which will be presented by Shima-san, one of our senior tour leaders. So in order to make sure that we can enjoy today's session, please let me explain the structure of the talk. So after this short introduction, Shima-san will talk and we will have a question and answer session. You might have noticed that your video and audio are not available. This is done so that we can protect your privacy. And so in order for you to ask questions, please use the chat function. It's either visible on your monitor, but if it's not, it may be hidden behind the more option or three little dots, usually on the right-hand side of your screen. I will be curating the questions as you submit them, so you're encouraged to submit your questions as you think about them during Shima-san's talk. And as well, if you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please send a message using the chat function, and one of our technical support will be able to help you. If for whatever reasons you're kicked out or suddenly lose connectivity, please don't worry. As soon as you are able to start Zoom again, you can rejoin the meeting at any time just by clicking on the same link. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Shima-san. Over to you, Shima-san.
Hi, good morning from Tokyo, everyone. My name is Shima Enomoto. I am very, very happy to have this opportunity to talk about sake. I'm currently head researcher and writer for the Sake Industry News, which is an online newsletter targeted to English-speaking sake industry professionals. And also, I'm qualified as an advanced sake professional for the US organization, and from a Japanese organization, I got a Kikizake qualification, which is loosely translated to sake sommelier. So I think I have a bit of the background of sake, and I'm a very, very much like a fan of bunraku. Bunraku is a Japanese puppetry. I don't know if you have ever seen it, but I can tell you during the Edo period, 17th to 19th century, bunraku is even more popular than kabuki. So if you're interested in kabuki, please take a look at bunraku as well. So sake and bunraku are my passion, as well as, of course, I do love walking. And I joined Walk Japan as a tour leader in 2013. So I'm a, Giorgio said I'm a senior tour leader. And yeah, kind of, because I've been doing this more than 8 years now. And enjoys leading Nakasendo Way and Kiso Road. That became my specialty at the beginning, at least. And Nakasendo Way, the longer version, I've done it 19 or 20 times. With the Kiso Road included, definitely more than 25 times. And recently I started the Inland Sea Odyssey. If you're interested in contemporary art or architecture of Japan, modern architecture of Japan, please take a look at the Inland Sea Odyssey, just, before it will become too popular once we open up for inbound tourists here. Okay. So today's topic is sake. I put kanpai, cheers to drinkable Japanese craft. Sake is Japanese culture itself. And this is should be considered as a traditional craft. It's just like a kimono weaving, bamboo basket making, same intricate process to create delicious sake. Brewing method, there are so many different styles of sake because even as recent as 1970s, there are more than 10,000 breweries all over Japan. So basically, each village has their own brewery. Now it shrunk to about 1,200 in Japan, the breweries. But still, I think people talk about their own local breweries quite a bit. So today I will refer about the history of sake and the seasons of sake brewing, as well as brewing process, and a slight technical side to look at the sake labels. And then finally, I will go over some practical tips to enjoy sake. Okay, let's start. History of sake. I put more than 1,000 years of history. There are some documents which refer to sake. And at this point, the sake, even 1,000 years ago, it was already a clear liquid, meaning there is a pressing process included. You know, a lot of unsophisticated sake is not clear, but by 1,000 years ago in Japan, there's already clear sake. And it is closely related to our religion, Shinto. Look at those pictures. Top one, I think you've seen it at the shrine if you've been to Japan. And near the shrine, each one of those logos, you know, these things, are the brand of sake. And these brand offer the sake to Shinto deity. Each one of them contains 72 liters of sake. And this is sort of an offering to Shinto deity. Shinto deity loves fun. If you go to shrine, you will notice there is a performing stage. Why? Because the Shinto deity want to see dancing. And dancing, after dancing, what will come is a drink. So Shinto deity loves having fun with dance and sake, thus the offering of sake. Also, if you peek in, this is inside of the altar, and there is an offering to kami deity, Shinto deity. Here's rice. This is a dried dehusked rice. And this little one is mound of salt. You might have seen sumo wrestling, and before fight, sumo wrestler throws salt away into the ring. So this is a purification of the sumo wrestling ring. They use salt. So purification salt. This sort of a teardrop shaped stuff contains water. These are sake bottles. So daily offering to kami deity is 1, 2, 3, 4 different kind of offering. So the rice here also very important in the Japanese society. During Edo period, 17th to 19th century, rice is measured by the productivity of rice from that land, and each domain laws were given from the central government salary using the amount of rice. So rice is almost like currency during those period. And of course, even to this day, rice is a staple for Japanese people. All right. So now I covered a short history of sake. And as Walk Japan, we love seasons, and then seasonal tours are provided. And here's a seasons for sake. In Japan, fiscal year or academic year starts in April, not in January or September. But sake has its own calendar starting July 1st. And the brewing season is winter. And the starting and ending month are different depending on the region because rice growth are different. So this is sort of related to the rice growing season as well. You might have seen Takuya's rice growing session, the first of this Talk Japan series. So there's a calendar of rice growing. So for sake, July the 1st starts of the beginning brewing year, and the rice is still growing here. By October, a lot of regions, they harvest rice, and then they the husked rice and the store rice. Comes November, sake brewing, actual brewing starts. And this is a sort of a easy process. And this process I will go over in detail in the next slide. And then sake is brewed in many, many different batches here. And by March, the sake brewing season finish. And next month, they store the sake. And then as a farmer, you have to start planting rice seedling around April to early May. And on and on. And then June 30th, end of brewing year, and the rice started to grow during the rainy season, tons of water. Rice growth is kind of robust, I would say. So if you see this whole year, actual sake brewing season is around here, November to March. Sake master brewer, who is orchestrating sake making process, is called toji. And toji comes to a brewery and works with sake brewery workers to create sake during the winter season, which is when he is not growing rice. After sake is made in March, master brewer goes back to his own village to work at his own farm. And recently, more sake brewers hired toji year-round as an employee of the brewery to stabilize sake production. But original Japanese style is farmers, when they finish harvesting their own rice, they go to other places to brew sake. So toji has a guild of regional guild moving around and teach and create or brew sake. So this is one whole season. Okay, let's go over this sake brewing process. Sake brewing ingredients are water, rice, koji, and yeast. Let's take a look at rice first. The first process, once you harvest the rice, you store rice. And once you store rice, you start to mill and wash and steam. Okay, here's the sake rice close up. This is table rice, and this is sake rice. Those two are not the same. This is different. Sake rice is different from table rice. How different? Sake rice is bigger grain, and when they are growing, it's a longer stem, and it's harder to grow. The reason why it's harder to grow is the taller the stems, they can get affected by the strong wind or typhoons, and they're going to get bent over and put it in the water, get it spoiled. So it is harder to grow. And thus, sake rice is normally twice the price of the regular table rice. Another important thing is this white center in the picture is right here. Is a white center, is called shinpaku in Japanese, and this is a pure starch. And this is suitable for more milling. Milling is an important process for sake. And as for a sake rice name, I put 3 names here. But Yamada Nishiki, you may find it on some of the brand of sake uses Yamada Nishiki name. So this is worth remembering or worth put it in your mind. Okay, I talked about milling. So let's take a closer look to the milling. Right, here's a brown rice, meaning dehusked rice without any polishing, any milling. And here's a milling ratio 70, 60, 50, 40, 35. So as you can see, it gets smaller and smaller. It's becoming like a little round shape. Milling ratio 70. This means milling 30% away. So 40% away, 50% away. Actually, just for the fun of it, sake brewery recently have so much more technology. So they made a milling ratio 1% sake. Yes, 99% is not going into sake. People who had it, it's very expensive sake and very rare. was it's very good. Of course, I have to say very good. But the rule of thumb is if it is go over and beyond the 40%, sort of a price difference may not, justify the more milling. It's just for fun to talk about. Why mill rice? Outer layer is of rice contains protein, fat, and so on, good for eating, but not for brewing. So when I say in a previous slide, right here, this contains fat and protein and other unwanted thing for sake brewing. And if you get rid of this, you get a pure starch. And pure starch is what you need for brewing sake without any off flavor. Okay. One more thing about rice I have to talk about is koji. Rice is steamed. How it is steamed is different from the table rice. Table rice, you can chew it fairly easily, but the rice steamed for sake is outside is a kind of hard and inside is softer. So it's sort of opposite from the regular rice. Why? Because the way that they steam the rice like that is for koji spores. Koji spores is, yes, it's mold and it's like a green powder. It's a very fine powder. It can go through tissue papers. And you sprinkle over this koji spores on steamed rice. In this very hot room, this has a temperature of 100 degree Fahrenheit, 40 degree or over. And in the koji room, steamed rice, koji spores sprinkled steamed rice is sort of rest for 48 years. Rest is not the right word because this is the hardest work for sake breweries workers. Every 2 hours, they have to wake up and then they have to decrumble the rice. Because once koji spores started to grow inside of the rice, that started to become a rice ball. It's sort of, small rice balls. So they have to wake up every 2 hours and crumble all those rices to make it flat so that koji spores can grow evenly all over. And here's the final koji. And the starch of the rice now becomes sugar. And this is a sort of a white, crisp rice, tad bit sweet. You can really feel the sweetness if you chew it. And this looks like a Zen garden to you, but this is how koji making is done because they have to get rid of the excess moisture at this point. They were in a very warm room, but now they have to get rid of the moisture. So that's why they make this shape happen to be like a Zen garden. Okay, so let's go back a little. Okay, so you took a look at these processes right now, and the steamed rice and koji spores, starch in rice, becomes sugar. So now it's ready to ferment. So this is a base fermentation mash. What you add here is yeast. And by adding yeast to the sugar, it becomes alcohol. At this point, this is a base. What I mean by base, it is a very concentrated liquid because they want to let yeast grow very strongly. And then they continue to add to create a main fermentation mash, continue to add water, steamed rice, and koji. And then it becomes like a 3 times more of the, or even more than base fermentation mash. How does that main fermentation mash look like? It is a milky and like a yogurt drink stuff. This is called dobroku. There used to be tons of dobroku making in Japan. All the villagers making it and enjoy their home brew. But right now, legally, you're not supposed to do at home. And in Japan, brewing home kit is not sold at all. Like a beer brewing or wine making kit, I can find it UK or US, but we cannot buy them. Actually, sake brewing kit is now available, at least in the States. And they cannot sell it in Japan. It's a kind of sad thing. But anyway, it's a legal issue. Now here, once you get this yogurt drink look like done, you need to press it. By pressing it, you get rid of the sediment or sake leaves, like a rice sediment. And that becomes a seishu. This is a legal name for sake. Sei means clear, shu means sake. So clear sake is a legal name for a Japanese sake. And then they are ready to bottle. So there are a couple of other processes around here. Like, for example, at this point, main fermentation mash, alcohol contents can easily go up to 18 to 19, but most brewery add water here to make it around 15, because that's how people believe it's easier to drink during the meal. And before that, also another process is pasteurization to stop fermentation, to stabilize the quality. Okay, now let's take a look at a little bit more of the grades of sake. So this pyramid is a grades of sake, the sort of introduction page. Table sake is an inexpensive daily sake. Paper pack sake, 2 liters for $8, $8 or something. So those used to be more than 90%. But this premium sake segment is growing tremendously. When I started to talk about sake, this was like only about 15% at most. But recent trend is they're growing, they're producing premium sake more. This is a true growing segment. A lot of breweries emphasizing this level, and most of the exports belong to premium sake. So let's take a closer look at the premium sake. Right. I talked about the ingredients in the process of sake making: rice, water, yeast, and koji. And this is called the junmai. Junmai means pure rice. There's another group which has brewed alcohol added, 4 ingredients plus brewed alcohol. I just told you the sake is naturally fermented easily to 18 to 19%. Why do you have to add brewed alcohol? This brewed alcohol is added after adding water. The reason being, brewed alcohol makes the sake's aromatic component stands out more. So it's a matter of style, and the addition is a very tiny amount to give a little bit more aromatic component. Traditionally, during the Edo period, this practice was also done. But at that time, the reason behind the brewed alcohol is added is to avoid spoilage. So now, this is a difference is in style, not necessarily good or bad. And I explained about milling. Why? Because this is a determination factor for a grade of sake. 50%, 60%, 70%. So 50% milled away, 40% milled away, 30% milled away. So this Junmai and Honjozo, this level is a base premium sake. And if you polish more than 40%, that's called ginjo. I put so many Japanese words: Junmai Daiginjo, Junmai Ginjo, Daiginjo, and Ginjo. But this 4 styles is called Ginjo style. Ginjo is pronounced not the Jinjo, but the Ginjo. That means this is an elegant style sake, aromatic sake, and you can really enjoy this class of sake, wine glasses, and then slightly chilled. So this is one word from this page to remember is the word Ginjo. So in some, there is a added alcohol style to make aromatic component stands out. And then the milling ratio is a determination factor for grades of sake. And key is ginjo. Okay, take a look at the label now. Front label, there's no rules for what to put in Japan. So when they export, there's no rule either. I said sake making, there are so many sake making. There is a saying, sake making has 10,000 ways. That's definitely applicable for labels. So this is a calligraphy label. It says Kitajima, name of the brand. When they export, normally they put the Kitajima on the label. That's about it. They don't touch too much. And other information, they normally do not translate. So they're still, especially the local small breweries, craft sake, they cannot make label each times. So they just do Japanese letters, writing whatever they want. In this particular label, they put sake rice name, they put the brewing year, and they put, this is unpasteurized sake. So they just put one of the characteristics of sake. So what do you look at is a back label. As of now, back label design is determined by each importers. Importers decide what to emphasize and they put their own format. So right now, no common format, but JETRO, Japan External Trade Organization, came up with a label as on this right-hand side. So the product name, flavor, aroma. By the way, this says green apple. That does not mean green apple added. It's aroma. Yeast can do a lot of interesting things to sake. And you can have a banana sort of aroma sake. You can have a white flower. It sounds like a wine, but it is amazing how those aromas come out from rice and water. And food matches. I will talk about food matches a little bit later. And the serving temperature and the storage temperature, sort of a recommended one, is written as well. And this is a sort of a fun fact about the producer and about this sake. This is, many producers has tons of history. In this particular one, it's started in 1742. There are many breweries, pretty old. And about the sake, this is a message from the brewery. And right here, it's a country specific, but the legal requirements are written here. And often around here, found these type of thing. Alcohol by volume. This is between 14 to 16 for a normal sake. A sake rice name, milling ratio. Milling ratio is important because the grades come from that. And SMV. What is SMV? Sake meter value. This is a number of plus and minus number. And the plus is sweet, minus is dry. That's a sort of a general knowledge. But +2 to minus, let's say 8, you really, it does not have a vast difference. But if you find like a +40, definitely it's sweet. And minus, like -15, it's bone dry. So you have to look at it as one of the factors of the taste. And there is a number year, like right now is a 20 and 04 or 21, 04, that kind of thing. And in Japan, you might have noticed if you come here, there is a Japanese calendar as well. So in Japan, those are written in Japanese calendar, such as this year is Reiwa 3, April. So 03, 04 is now. But it's when they export, they put 2104. So what I recommend is check this. Some sake does not have it. And if you don't see it, you do not know how fresh this sake is. And the problem is, if it's sitting in a retail shelf, it could have been under the sun for 1 year. That's definitely changed the tasting profile. a lot of sake, a lot of restaurants keep the sake very nice condition. So those are okay for a year and a half. You can, have quite a good quality sake, but I would buy definitely at the retail within a year and a half of the date. Okay. Now, since we are the tour company, this is a Japanese map right here. I would like to talk about the regionality of sake. Japan is north to south, but at the same time, east side to west side. So around here, sake quality changes. Northern part is a crisp and dry and clean, that kind of style, while the southern part or western part of Japan is a little bit more round, tad bit sweeter. That style of sake is much more common. Let's look at each region as well. Okay, the regionality comes from climate, local food, rice, and water. Unlike wine, grapes, rice you can carry from where it's produced to the local area. But recently, a lot of prefectures started to grow their own sake rice, develop a new sake rice strain, and started to grow their own rice. But traditionally, of course, the climate has influence, but the local food is one of the big influence because you drink sake with food, and if your local food is more like on the salty side, they do have a little bit more robust style. And if you can get the fresh fish all the time, then you can get a rather clear, smooth sake. And just like anything else in Japan, each brewery has a different emphasis and each grade has a different character, meaning there's always an exception to the rules. So this is a sort of really a generalization quite a bit here. But Walk Japan's popular tours from north to south. I know many of you joined Narrow Road to North, which is a basho tour, is a nickname. This is a Miyagi and Yamagata prefecture. The style is a typical northern part of sake, dry and clean. And Yamagata received one of the GI, geographical identification. And this is a very new thing in Japan. Unlike wine, wine is so keen on terroir, AOC, that kind of thing. But GI, I believe there are only 7 at this point, and Yamagata is one of the first to apply for it and got it. So Yamagata has its own sake rice, own yeast, and they produce the sake using their own ingredients. Right, Nakasendo Way, Nagano Prefecture and Gifu Prefecture. Mountainous, cold weather suited for sake. Quite robust, but many varieties. Quite robust because this is about the local food. There's no fresh food, especially in winter. They only have, let's say, a fermented vegetable pickles. And Nagano is, even now, more than 50% of a miso paste is produced in this prefecture. So it needs quite a robust sake to go with a very strong miso flavored food. Kumanokodo, going to a little bit of the south or central, Kumanokodo pilgrimage. The prefecture name is Wakayama. It's a very well-known heavy rain area, good quality water, solid and round. And Inland Sea Odyssey. This is a Hiroshima prefecture. Japan has so much of the soft water. Even hard water in Japan is looking at the global standard is soft. But Hiroshima's water, especially near the coastal area, is the softest of the soft. And the soft water fermentation method was developed in Hiroshima and smooth and clean to go with fresh snapper sashimi. Hiroshima's mountainside is more like a Nagano or Gifu style sake because they don't have fresh fish. And I know some people joined the Kyoto tour, but the Kyoto is also known as soft water, feminine style of sake. And I hope soon you will have more opportunities to join, let's say, onsen gastronomy tours of each area at the Walk Japan. Okay, so practical tips. How to enjoy sake. For people who likes wine, Ginjo style sake, and compare different regions. Ginjo represents aromatic sake, slightly chilled. You can enjoy with the wine glasses, and that goes well with whatever you're eating with wine. For people who already drinking sake quite a bit, premium sake quite a bit, I hope you can find a favorite brewery and compare different classes, different grades. I just put some of the names of brewery who can provide multiple different grades of sake for export. And if you've been drinking quite a bit and enjoy a different region, different style, different grades, then enjoy different temperature. Sake is one of the few alcoholic beverage you can really change the temperature, and you can do experiment quite a bit. And quite an interesting thing. One of my favorite is there's one effervescent sake which I warm up. So there are numerous combinations to enjoy the temperature. And sometimes you heat it up so much and then you just let it cool down to drink it. So there's no rules about it. So you can try different style and catch up with new trend. Sparkling sake is available. Alain Ducasse, a famous French chef, together with one of the brewery in Japan, developed the sparkling sake recently. And that will be available, well, at least in Japan. And other sparkling wines are exported as well. Aged sake, nama, unpasteurized. And nama is very difficult to keep. You have to refrigerate all the time. So when you come to Japan, please enjoy nama. Or some restaurants have a designation of allotment of a nama sake. So ask around. And one important thing is a sake storage. You need to keep them out of some cool place or fridge. And you got to drink soon. Once you buy it, that's ready to drink. And once open, put it in a fridge and drink within a week or so. I recently come up with a sort of a brochure done by a research institute within a month or so. So oxidation for wine is a real enemy, but sake is a little bit more okay it's a little bit more stronger against the oxidation, I would say. So in some, it's like opposite of wine almost, meaning you do not have to put in a cellar for 2 or 3 years. Rather, don't cellar it. Just drink it that when you buy it. But once open, put it in the fridge and then drink, glass a day. That's fine. And then you can enjoy actually the change of the flavor as well. Okay. Food pairing, one of the favorite topic. Sake is not only for Japanese food. This is what I recently had with sake. This is a slow cooked turkey with vegetables and the red meat with a roasted vegetable. And this is a lobster pasta, quite rich food, but they went very well with sake. So sake doesn't have a strong acidity nor a tannin. So it can cover quite a range of food. You'll be surprised. So please try a different food. Like a Spanish tapas goes very well. Like olive oil, garlic, mushroom, that goes very well with a junmai, sort of a base of the premium style sake. And if you're at home, try it with cheese. Cheese and sake, umami goes very well together because umami is the fifth element of the taste, and sake has umami, cheese has umami. Cured meat. My favorite is a prosciutto and daiginjo, the cream of the crop sake. It was very aromatic. It's almost like having a prosciutto and melon in my mouth without having melon. Oysters. Oysters and the sake both has one common thing is it's a succinic acid. So it's like a food science is quite popular these days. So if you analyze it, oysters, it does make sense. Not necessarily raw oysters. Raw oysters are fine, as well as the smoked oysters. So try it with many different things. There are sake to go with chocolate, dessert as well. Now, I think I whet your appetite. So you need to get sake. Where can you get it? I'll go over US first. Online shop is called Tipsy, double P, tipsysake.com. And there is, if you're living around New York area, Sakaya, 2007 it opened. It's on Lower East Side. And if you are in San Francisco, you're in luck. There's this True Sake is the first sake only shop in the United States. True Sake. I put website for each one of the company. You can see there is a tons of drop down menus, and they do give you advice or searching tools, and you can chat with them, or you can just send an email. They will answer any questions, food pairing, all that stuff. And these two, even though they're not online shop mainly, but still they do ship for you. So you need to consult because the state by state, the rules of shipping is different. Okay, and then one more thing about the United States. There is a SBANA, Sake Brewers Association of North America now. There's a resource map available, sakeassociation.org. And this red shopping cart denotes a retail shop. And what's surprising is these blues actually sake breweries in the United States, quite a lot popping up. And now I think in France there are two, and in UK there's one in Oxford, one in Vietnam, one in Taiwan, one in Spain. I'm just going back and forth quite a bit. But in globally, there are sake breweries and starting. And these are not run by Japanese people. They are run by local people as well. So for you who are from Australia or New Zealand, these are the recommendations from my Australian sake guru. Black Market Sake, Australian sake specialist, Sake Connect, Demystifying Sake, and Deja Vu Sake. So these three are recommended. I look at their website and they do have quite a lot of resources as well as search capability. And if you're living in Hong Kong, Singapore, UK, these are just some of the example. I was doing the search and I asked around, and Saketora in Hong Kong, Sake Central, they have a real shop as well as an online shop, I believe. And in Singapore, Interrace Asia and Sake to Go. And there are some other online shopping platforms available. For UK, Tengu Sake, London Sake. So there are many, many ways to search. You can Google it. And if you have more questions about where to get sake, please let me know. I will sort of ask around and give you a recommendation as well. Okay. Finally, I will tell you sake trivia. One, health factor. Sake is gluten-free, sulfate-free, and no sugar is added. So people who have a headache after red wine, sometimes okay with sake. I have a friend who's actually stopped drinking because of the headache. And then when she had sake, she goes like, wow, I can drink this, it's great. So it does have this kind of healthier aspect. And this is a developing story, but recent research found the sake contains 5-ALA, which fights against COVID. We will see. Okay, and then look at those pictures. This is called cedar bowl. Top one is, I think you might have seen it at one of the bar or restaurants under the eave, but this is originally for sake breweries to show the people what's going on inside of the sake brewery. When new sake is ready, cedar bowl appears at the brewery's storefront. New sake time. See, like this color. As time passes, its color changed to brown. Now it's autumn. Sake is matured and ready to drink. I mean, of course, in March, you can drink a new sake. There's always a sake time, but this is a sort of a time passage of the sake brewing season. And notice these rope and this paper. This, you can find at the shrine all the time. So this is called shide, and this is a boundary between the sacred world and the secular world. So I hope you will enjoy the world of sake beyond the boundary and try sake tonight or depending on the time soon. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Giorgio, I will pass it to you.
Thank you, Shima-san. That was very interesting and informative. Now I have received some questions, so maybe we can go through these and answer them. So let's go to Steve. Steve has a comment and a question, actually a couple of questions. So I once loved to drink hot higher sake from a vending machine, Judo Hanbaiki on cold Tokyo nights. How is this sake viewed in the sake world?
Right now, for a while, we talk about the premium sake should be drunk slightly chilled. And then I think in Japan, it's go beyond that, meaning we are revisiting the possibility of a different temperature. So hot sake is, one of the options. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And I used to say, hot piping sake and smell like engine fuel. There are still such a kind of sake, but there is a sort of a more enjoyable hot sake. Actually, Japanese vending machine sake is not bad. And I have one story to tell you. There is a British guy who became toji in Japan, and Philip Harper. He's very famous. And then his style, his sake, I was served by him, his own sake, and he put it piping hot, really over 100 Fahrenheit. And it was good. So it is certainly something to enjoy. So experiment and enjoy. That's the bottom line, I think.
Thank you. Also, a question from Jack. Jack is asking whether sake drinking is popular amongst the younger generation, or is it still a traditional drink for the older generation in Japan?
I think the fact that a premium sake that segment grew from 15% to 40%, that is pushed by the younger people. And the younger people actually making sake by a younger toji, they know how to disseminate the information through a social media to the younger fans. So quite a lot of younger people getting into sake and start drinking sake, especially the premium grade of sake.
Thank you. More questions coming up in. So, Steve, again, reading the kanji sake label is very difficult. I can concur. So the label is even tougher though. Are there any set phrases or other strategies that you can recommend for us when reading labels in Japanese?
Other strategies. Well, first, there are some words you can, if you're learning kanji, I guess I'm assuming Steve is learning or know kanji. He knows kanji. So in that case, you can make a flip card for us sake words, like a ginjo. There's a certain characters for it. So you need to recognize what could be on, like the word I used today, daiginjo, ginjo, nama, undiluted genshu. Those are the words you can put in. And then sake meter value in Japanese is nihon shudo. That's sometimes written. And then you can study the kanji characters for the sake rice, Yamada Nishiki, 3 letters. And once you can read Nishiki, you can read other sake rice. So I guess just like any foreign language, you need to learn, but there are sake lingos to remember.
Thank you, Shima-san. Yeah, I think what we can do when we send the post talk email, we can maybe add a list of words in Japanese and English for those of you who are in Japan or want to challenge Japanese labels. Now, Justine is asking if there's an easy or a general way to figure out if a sake is best drink hot or cold.
Okay, general sort of a rule of thumb. Within that sake grade, I put ginjo style, and then there's a base of the premium sake, which is junmai or honjozo. Those are okay to warm up. However, ginjo, if you smell, and then if the aroma is, let's say, green apple, banana, white flower, that kind of a more fruity type of thing, then that scent will sort of, you do not feel those scent as much as before. So if you are sort of new to warming up, go to a sort of a base quality, base grade of premium sake. Then experiment the temperature. I think that's a good start.
Great. One more question from Carol. After milling, is the unused part used for something else?
The powder of rice is used for Japanese rice crackers, and it is a very good animal feed. So nothing is wasted. And these days, some of them are sort of used part of the ingredients for cosmetics, like a facial pack and all that.
Thank you. I recently, I've seen in some of the ryokan that we use on some of our tours that they have quite a number of cosmetic creams made from sake, and they seem to be very popular. Now, there's one question from Denise. Hi, Denise. I once had cold amazake in the summer. Is that sake from a stage in the sake making process?
Remember koji? Koji is a white crispy rice, which is a tad bit sweet. And you use that for amazake. It's not alcoholic. And there are a couple of ways of making it, but the proper amazake is made with koji, a certain percentage of koji. An easy way at home, what we do is toward the end, you press it. There's a sake leaves left. So sake leaves and water and sugar at home, I do it all the time. But that one is a slightly alcoholic. If you cook enough, it's going to go. But that's a two different method. But proper sake, amazake is a koji.
Thank you. Again, from Justine, can you please remind us for SMV, the lower the number, the lower the sugar level. Is that correct?
Lower the number is lower sugar. Yes, that's right. Minus is drier, plus is sweeter.
Okay. Thank you. And so one from Michael. What kind of people make sake historically? Monks, farmers, merchants? All of them?
I would say a prominent family of that village. When we go Nakasendo, we go to in Tsumago, Wakihonjin, which is a sort of one of the prime inn to host famous samurais, famous daimyos. And their side business was sake making. And there are so many sake breweries who is a sort of a head of the village and all that stuff. So this is, sake brewing is pretty much like prime. It's not a samurai's job. So it's a farmer's job, but it's a sort of a prominent family of the village's job. And by the way, priest is the one who started making sake in Nara in 1200 years ago. So in that sense, yes, it started with priest, but became a sort of a merchant job.
Thank you. We have one more question. Do you always drink sake straight? How is it best way to drink it?
I do drink sake, which is between 14 to 16, I do drink sake straight. But nowadays, there are sake style without adding any water, so which is 18%, 90%. And some of them, actually, brewer recommend to put the ice cube in to enjoy. So yeah, on the rock, it is doable. If you think it's too strong, you can add ice cube. But I know my straight answer is yes, I do normally drink straight. But if it is 18 or over, and if it is very hot and all that, then I will put ice cube. Yes. And there are sake cocktails are very much available, and people are very keen on developing that kind of thing. And martini, saketini, and the Gekekan, one of the largest sake breweries in Japan, came up with a base sake, which has a higher alcohol content. It's sold in a sort of a paper pack. But anyway, people can make sake cocktail.
Thank you. Now that we're thinking how to drink sake, with tea, for example, Japanese tea, depending on the season, we use different shapes or size of cups to better enjoy whether it's cold or hot. Is it the same for sake? Is there a guideline or advice on what cups to drink?
There's no such sort of a protocol, but Japan is, you enjoy the seasons. So in the summer, there's a glass kind of little cup would be very suitable. And if you're drinking very much like aromatic one, it's a kind of wine glass style. You can just put your nose in and enjoy. Or if you're warming up, ceramics or it's really, you can try with a different style to feel the seasonality and try to match with sort of a mood of the day.
And more of a personal question, what started your interest on sake?
I've been drinking sake for so long, so it's a part of the sort of life. But my mother liked sake. My mother's my grandfather loves sake. He used to drink 1.8 liters a day, and he brewed sake as a side business as well. And as a result, we talk about sake quite a bit, and it's just a part of our daily conversation.
Interesting. Another question from Steve. Are there any sake taboos or forbidden or rude things that you can do other than finishing the bottle?
I'm sure there are tons of etiquette you've read, Walk Japan's brochure and things, but not really. I mean, enjoy sake with other people, enjoy sake with food. Really not. As long as you enjoy it and then make other people happy as well at the same time, then that's it. Don't worry about too many things. Even sort of when you sort of pour the sake, right? There's a little bit trickle down, right? Some people do, that kind of thing. So make a slapping noise. It's quite not like wine, I would say.
Thank you. I actually remember that I went to a sake bar not long ago, and they served sake on glass wines, on like they would serve white wine, and it was a very strange experience for me because I wasn't used to it, but it tasted very good.
Yeah. Giorgio, actually, Riedel, this Austrian crystal glass maker, they developed sake glass together with the breweries.
Oh, okay.
So they do have a sake Riedel with a stem. Sake glasses, yeah.
Great. I'm just looking at the questions here. So, what's your favorite sake?
All the sake I do like. No, well, it depends. When that sort of summer, I prefer very lightish sake, so I tend to go for a northern style sake. But in winter, I like more robust and like in winter, I normally drink red rather than white kind of thing. So, and then the plus, my mother is from Hiroshima, and the sake I was familiar when I was younger, after 20 years old, is a Hiroshima style sake. So that's a kind of nostalgic kind of thing. Soft water, soft sake, round and sweetish.
Thank you. Somebody's asking a general question if Shima present any Walk Japan sake classes in Japan. Not yet, but perhaps we can do that in the future.
Yeah, it's a great idea. You can enjoy sake if you compare it.
Yeah.
I sometimes take road scholar tour people in a kiso, the one of the brewery, and we can compare like a 3 different style over there. And that's the way to learn, meaning that's a way to remember the taste difference. A lot of times you only can taste one sake, but if you can taste 2 or 3 sake at the same time, that'll be good. So there are shops available with a 300 milliliter sake, like 3 different set. It's available online quite a bit these days. So we try to do that. That will really, really, good to learn. Good way to learn sake.
Thank you. I can think there's more. There's one more question. So if people like dry wine, do they usually prefer dry sake?
Well, dry wine, you can have different dryness, meaning like a Chardonnay dryness and Chenin Blanc dryness is quite different because oakiness and all that is sort of affecting other flavors. So, and a dry sake is, you can really start feeling it about -15. There are not many sake is that bone dry. So in between, like if I show you sake meter value, like a 4 or 5-ish, you may feel it's not dry. It's aftertaste dry, but the rice itself, if you chew rice, you have a sweetness left in your mouth. That you can feel it because sake is coming from rice. So I think it goes with food, and depending on the food, you can enjoy. If I show the sake meter valueness, maybe +4, +5 is quite a good level to start with.
Thank you. And a personal question, maybe again, 1.8 liter per day. Your grandfather used to drink.
Yeah. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's why he. No, that is way too much. In old days, people drank quite a lot. It could be lower alcohol contents. These days, alcohol contents goes as high as 18. So Japanese normally drink, or rather, the recommended amount, 1 unit. In my case, is that I drink about 180 milliliter to 360. In Japan, 1 unit of sake is ichigo, which is 180 milliliter. So 300 bottle a day, I normally stop there.
Okay, yeah. Well, I can speak for my Italian side. My parents are in their 90s and they still drink a lot of wine. And they won't have lunch or dinner without wine.
Yes.
So I think they even take their medicines with wine. So never
That's
mind.
exactly what
The older generation
okay.
is very, very strong. Okay, so I think I've asked all the questions we've received. So I wanted to, oh, there's another one that's just coming perfect from Justine. Do you happen to know any crowdsourced sake directory or mobile apps similar to Drummer or for whiskey?
Crowdfunding source sake. Actually, there are a couple of crowdfunding doing lots for sake. The prominent one is called, in Japan, called Makuake, Makuake. And they are supporting sort of revived sake brewery, or, quite a notable new sake breweries are all supported there. So this crowdfunding is a new way of reviving many different sake breweries in Japan. Part of that, this one of the French near Paris, there's one brewery, Wakaze, that is funded by crowdfunding as well. Okay, so that's the first part of the question. And second?
If there's any apps, mobile phone apps that you know of.
In Japanese, I do know about sake. There are many, but I think some of them may be multilingual. So I can check and then I'll reply for that.
Okay, actually, Justine is now. The question was different. I misread it. Justine was asking about sake appreciation directory. So maybe online resources, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Online resources are tons of them available, but I recommend Sake World by John Gauntner. John is John, and Gauntner, Gauntner. I work for the sake industry news with him, but he is the sake guy. So his page is, from 101 to quite a geeky thing, quite a number of resources. So sake guy, I think that's a good one too. Sake World by sake guy is a good thing. So search for John Gauntner. And I can send an email out later on for the resource.
Okay, we'll include this in the post email.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Norman and everyone else. Okay, so I think we've exhausted, we've answered all the questions. If you have any more questions, feel free to send them by email. Thank you, Shima, again for today's talk. It was very informative, and it's lunchtime in Japan, so I think I'm going to go and have a little bottle of sake with my lunch today. Thanks everyone for joining us today. It's really nice to see all these names, and I remember meeting, having met some of you already, and worked with some of you more than once, in fact, with some of you in Japan. So stay tuned. We are going to have more of these Talk Japan sessions. Our next session is going to be updated on our website and Facebook accounts. We have tentatively May 19th as the date, and Tim Screech, who joined Book Japan just as COVID affected us, is going to talk about the urban magic and the urban planning of Edo, of Tokyo. And then after that, we will have more talks on Tokyo, and we are thinking of even having a series of talks on specific topics related to Japanese culture. So we will keep you informed, and thanks again. Thank you, Shima, and see you all again soon. Thank you.